So I have to give a little disclaimer that I put my Twitter handle up there, and I recently just started trying to get back onto Twitter after Kevin Honeycutt. Those of you who got to see him, what was it, only a week ago? Was that just a week ago? I was home all day with my son Grayson. He's back there. Say hi, Grayson. I'm a little brain dead because I was home with a sick kid all day. But anyway, he kind of inspired me because he just said, it doesn't have to be perfect, just get out there and start creating something, put something out there. And so I'm just trying to put myself out there a little bit more on Twitter. So if you want to follow me, I did put that up there, shameless plug. I don't know if there's anything worth following, but you can check it out. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I'm here and where I work so that you can kind of have that context for those of you that don't know. So I am an IDS over at Metro High School, and Metro High School is our alternative high school here in the district. And all that means is that we have the privilege to serve kids who are a little bit at risk of dropping out. Maybe for whatever reason the comprehensive high school isn't a fit for them. It's not working. And so they come over to Metro High School, and we get to know them, and we get to work with them every single day. And it's just the biggest honor to be able to be a part of their lives and make a difference for them. And I just love it so much. I got the opportunity 2 years ago to start working there, and I could not be more thrilled, and I don't think I'm ever going to leave. So hopefully they want me to stay. The staff is like a big family there, and we truly have each other's backs. We're kind of a small staff. There's about 50 of us total, 25-ish teachers, and I think there's a misconception that maybe our kids are kind of like bad kids. You know, when you think about Metro High School, that might be what you think about or what the community might think about, but really, I've just had the opportunity to meet some of the most amazing, resilient, hardworking, creative, spunky, out-of-the-box, coolest kids, and Christy's here from Metro High School today too, and she can attest to the fact that they're just the coolest kids ever to get to know, and it really is an honor to get to know them. So, let's talk a little bit more about them. This year, we decided that we wanted to put some data to what we sensed was going on with our students. So how many of you have heard of adverse childhood experiences? Okay, so I'm not gonna really talk about what that actually is. So we just decided, like informally, when the students are coming into us, because we have orientations on a rolling basis, we thought let's give them some learning. We partnered with our teenager therapist. We came up with some learning that we wanted to give them around ACEs, and then we thought let's incorporate this in orientation, and then let's ask them if they would be willing to fill out the questionnaire and just kind of see where they're at with their ACE score. We don't ask them to tell us specifically what of those 10 ACE experiences have been a part of their lives, but we just say, hey, if you want to tell us that you've had 6 of these 10 or 2 of these 10 or whatever. And so I'm going to share this data with you. We've had about slightly under 200 new students come into our building this year, and of those students, 133 of them opted to take the questionnaire. It was totally optional. They didn't have to do it if they didn't want to. So here's the data that we have collected. It's not a formal study or anything like that, but just kind of wanted to get more information about our kids. So we have 62% of our students that have come into us this year that have more than 3 adverse childhood experiences in their lives. And just for comparison's sake, the CDC reports that about 12.5% of the overall population have 3 or more. So it's pretty stark to think about the number of students that we have coming in that have these significant impacts on their lives. And I don't know how that compares to the overall population in Cedar Rapids and what we're seeing overall here in our area. But what I do know is that means that we have students that have overcome significant barriers to even show up to school, and they have amazing resilience already just by the fact that they are standing in front of us every day and that they're coming to school and that they're giving it their all. And the other thing that this means is that we really want to make sure that we're giving the students an opportunity to heal from some of those maybe past wounds or current wounds that they've had. Oops, did I hit something? There we go. So that we're not transmitting these experiences onto future generations. We want to make sure that we give them a chance to heal from those. And so we thought, okay, if this is what's going on, then we need to also talk about teacher mental health, because one thing that our Tanninger person that's in our building, her name's Jenny, she's amazing, talked to us about was this idea of secondary trauma. And all that is just this natural reaction to being close to someone who's experienced trauma. So you kind of are close to that person and you really feel this almost the same impacts sometimes that the child is feeling or that this person is feeling that you know of their trauma. And so we have 60% of our kids, is what we're finding, that have had these significant things, and over and over and over again our teachers are putting their all into these kids, and it can be really draining over time. And we didn't want to experience burnout, and really our Metro staff are incredible. We have a pretty high retention rate, teachers that come to Metro. I was thinking about what you were talking about with motivation, and I was thinking, yes, like our teachers at Metro have a purpose. They are there because they really love what they do, and they have a purpose for why they want to be in that job. But we just need to make sure that we're really taking care of ourselves so that we don't have that burnout experience. So we tried a couple things this year, and we're still on the journey, and I just wanted to share a couple of those things with you. So one thing is that we thought, let's bring some awareness to this piece. Because if we don't even know that secondary trauma is a thing, then we can't account for that. We can't make sure that we build up resilience against it. And one of the ways that we did that was with a measure that's called the ProQual, and it's free, it's online, it's evidence-based, and it's just the professional quality of life measurement. And so you can go through as a teacher or as anybody that's in like a caring profession, and you can fill it out. And we had Tanninger come and help us do this. So they helped us fill it out and kind of think about what's our professional quality of life. How are we doing with some of these things that relate to our motivation, that relate to our mental health, being exposed to these students that have high levels of trauma, okay? And from there, we wrote self-care plans. We brought some intentionality to our own mental health, knowing that it was really, really important that we took care of ourselves. Just that idea that you can't pour from an empty cup. It's not a selfish thing to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And so that can go from anything to, do I have some self-regulation strategies if I'm feeling really triggered or if I'm feeling really upset by something that a student is doing? Do I have connection, like true connection with the staff members that I work with so that I can feel supported and heard and cared for? And then do I just, at the basic level, do I take care of myself in terms of getting rest, getting healthy things to eat, water, all of those kinds of good things that are boring but really important. So then on top of that, we thought, well, we need to do something with this whole PLC concept that we're supposed to be doing here in our building, right? And we thought, okay, we know that we have a really hard job and that we have, maybe a different job than what some of the other educators have in the district. And we really wanted to ask the question, well, what has to be present for a group to be considered a professional learning community? Because we are a community of professional educators, and at the same time, we know that not every group of people that come together is a PLC, because it is a very specific thing that has wide impacts if you are collaborating effectively. So what do you guys think? Maybe one of you would be willing to speak up and say, what do you think is the answer to this question? What has to be actually present for it to be considered? What's that tipping point? Like, if you have this, then you are a PLC. A common purpose. It's kind of that goal. So if you have a common purpose and a goal, you are a PLC. Data-driven decision-making. So you got to have some of that data. You have to have something to look at that knows, okay, I have this purpose, but am I meeting my purpose or not? Trust, yeah. That relatedness. Next steps, yeah. Okay, so here's what Solution Tree says. Solution Tree says it's an ongoing process where educators work collaboratively. Nobody said collaboration. In recurring cycles of collective inquiry, going back to what Chris was just talking about, to achieve better results for the students they serve. So are we collaborating? Are we using an inquiry process? And then are we achieving better results for the students that we serve? If not, Solution Tree would say, we're not a PLC. And so we thought, let's just start by talking about what does an inquiry cycle look like for a teacher. So we knew that PLCs were something that the building had tried to do with several false starts. And we knew that the way that we were trying to do it felt like we were sticking a square peg in a round hole. We were trying to get teams of teachers together. We were trying to figure out, we have a building full of singletons. Nobody really teaches the same teaching load. And so we were trying to kind of put our science people together and then figure out, okay, could they do some common assessments? And it just wasn't working. And so we wanted to go back and pare way back to, okay, what is the intention? And then how can we build from there? What's the main driver behind the PLC process? And so here it is at the most basic level. And my induction coach friends, Lynn and Roberta, I'll give them a little shout out. They know what this is all about because we learned all about this at New Teacher Center. So as a coach, you're thinking about this inquiry cycle as a process of continuous improvement for a teacher. So you start anywhere on the cycle. Maybe you start at the reflect portion. The teacher's thinking about, okay, what's working and what's not. I've got this group of kids in front of me. 5 kids I'm just not reaching them. Why not? What's working, what's not working with those kids? You maybe pull in some data right away. Maybe you don't. You learn about something new to try. You might reach out to people that work with those same kids. Maybe you look at some research-based practices. Maybe you reach out to your coach or to your principal or to your colleagues or to your PLC, right? You learn about it. You plan and prepare for that new piece of thing that you're going to do to try to impact the kids. And then you teach it. You do it right there with the kids. You monitor the impact, and then you come back and you reflect and see, how did it go? Did I reach the kids I meant to reach? Who was impacted by this strategy and who wasn't? So that's what we started with. Do teachers even know what we're talking about when we say we're going to focus on inquiry as teachers? So we looked at that, and then we said, okay, how do we pull in something else that we know is really impactful, and that's collective teacher efficacy. So John Hattie's research, so many people have heard of this. He would say that collective teacher efficacy is the top factor related to student achievement. And so we thought, could our PLCs incorporate collective efficacy in them? So 2 times the prior achievement levels of our students, 3 times their home environment and parental involvement, and 3 times their socioeconomic status. We knew that if we could kind of focus in on this collective teacher efficacy, we could overcome a lot of those other factors that we knew were happening in our kids' lives. And we had to put that into that process of inquiry. So efficacy is defined as the ability to produce a desired or intended result. And so I saw so many connections to what our first speaker was talking about with just this idea of competency as a teacher. So knowing that you can produce a desired or intended result. And collective efficacy is just the idea that we know that together we can produce those results. So not only am I effective, but collectively I have belief in our ability to do this work. So Jenny Donahue is awesome, and you should definitely check out her book. And she has blogs and all kinds of different things about collective teacher efficacy. But her main thing that I pulled away from her book was about mastery experiences. And that's what we're trying to do through our PLC process. So she talks about basically that experience of mastering something and getting those results is what then feeds right back into that idea of collective efficacy. And in teams, I've just pulled this right out so I'm going to kind of read it right here. Teams experience successes and attribute them to causes within their control, and then they expect effective performances to be repeated. So it's kind of like a cycle that continues to feed back into itself. Or if I'm struggling, but I see my peer perform well, it helps me have hope that I can overcome those same circumstances that my peer is also facing. And similarly, those colleagues can give me encouragement. They're in the trenches right with me. They're not a principal or a coach or some outside consultant coming in saying, you can do this, you can do this. It's my peer, my colleague that's right here at Metro with me, that's next door teaching the same kids that I'm teaching, and they are doing the work, and I can believe them that I can do it too. So that's what we really wanted to incorporate. So what did we actually do? Here's my staff, aren't they cute? No, really, they're incredible. So here they are. First things first, we stopped doing sit and get professional learning. Like right now what I'm doing, I haven't done this all year because it's just not effective for our staff, and it gives them no sense of autonomy over what their process and their professional learning should look like. So this is one way that our professional development looks, and this would probably be more of like a cross PLC day where we're having them look at some data, some school-wide data, or we're having them have conversations and share what they're doing in their PLC, like with somebody else from outside their group. But we also just have teams working in their PLCs. So first we decided on using the instructional practices inventory, which is the idea that we're going to focus on higher level engagement. And then we thought about the Marzano's New Art and Science of Teaching, and we picked out as a building some elements that we wanted to focus on. And then the teachers self-assessed on those, and then we took them and we had the staff self-select groups of people that were interested in the same types of teaching practices as I was. So if I wanted to work on higher order questioning, I looked at other staff members that wanted to work on that same thing, and we formed our PLCs in that way, instead of it had to be content alike. So we do have our math teachers, for example, our math teachers, they decided to stay together. They do a ton of co-teaching, they have a really flexible schedule, and so they really wanted to be able to look at data, they wanted to be able to do vertical articulation, and so they stayed together and they're working on questioning sequences. But then we also have a team that's one social studies teacher, one science teacher, and one ELA teacher, and they're all working on claims and evidence. So together, they are impacting that in their own way, in their own classrooms, and then they're sharing and they're looking at data collectively so that they can all improve that idea of higher order thinking. So some other examples around our inquiry cycle that we've had teachers doing that I just think is super cool. Because the best part about this is it's really boring for me because I kind of just sit back and I do the best that I can to support the groups and I pop in where they need me, but really I'm trying to hand it all over to them. So for example, on the learn portion, for teachers wanting to learn, we had one of our PLCs, they just reached out to their curriculum consultant and had them come in one Friday on their own to teach them something. We have staff members that are buying each other books. Like, I didn't suggest those books. They just went out, they found them, and they are looking at them together. We do have staff members that ask, myself or Devore to pull some different resources for them, and I hand over some books or whatever, and they're taking it and they're actually implementing it because it's just-in-time learning. It's something that they need right in that moment, and they have the autonomy to decide, this is what I want to work on, and this is what my kids need right now. In the planning portion, we're mainly using, some teachers are doing some co-planning, but then other teachers are using our tuning protocol. So that is a protocol that we taught the whole staff where they bring a lesson or a unit, one person from that team brings it, and everyone puts their eyes on it and gives feedback. In the teach portion, we have one of our most veteran teachers. This is a cool story. She is very uncomfortable with technology, and yet she's also the most willing to learn person I've ever worked with. So she had me come in and videotape one of her new strategies that she was trying, and she brought it to her team, and they all looked at it and analyzed and reflected on how it went together. So it was peer observation, and we do have another PLC that's getting ready to do a round of peer observations this quarter if we're ever in school. And then in the reflect portion, we do have some teams that are doing some common assessment work, but we also have teams that just look at one person's student work. Like, why can't it be, hey, I'm the science teacher, I had given these assessments, let's look at it together, and I have a ELA teacher that can give me some insights about how my kids could better engage with that, or what strategy I could use to teach that better next time, or to teach that in an intervention in the upcoming week. So really we just tried to pare it back to the basics, and I just wanted to share with you some of the things that staff members have said on professional learning feedback. And I'm not going to read them to you, because you can read them yourselves. I know that one cracked me up, but I had to include it. So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Teachers are saying it's working. So, it has been a challenge to not be able to have like consecutive weeks in a row that we're actually getting anything done this quarter, but it's showing that teachers really want this work. They want the autonomy to be able to do what they need to do. And we've just provided a lot of structure and supports and resources along the way. So where are we going next? I also put my Brene Brown in there. So as we continue to build this culture of trust, my goal is to continue to push teachers to be creative and to not try to do things the way that we've always done them. Because we don't want to just replicate the same type of educational experience at Metro that didn't work for our kids at the other high schools. We want to do things a little bit differently. We want to innovate and create, and also we want to learn from our failures. And if we're not willing to talk about our failures, if we're not willing to say, hey, I'm struggling with these students, I'm struggling with this content, it's so not engaging that I just can't figure out what to do with it. If we're not willing to put that out there, then we're not going to ever be able to get over that hump and do something that is just alarmingly different from the way that we've always done it. And then in that way, we can't also get better results. So we have to be willing to put ourselves out there so that we're not repeating the same mistakes for future generations, especially given the high stakes that some of the students at Metro come in with. So with that being said, if you have any questions, reach out to me on Twitter. Thank you.